Hello everyone, today we're working on a 2000 Ford F350. This is a 7.3 Powerstroke. What we're going to be doing today is putting on a bypass filter system, an Amsoil bypass filter system. The system for this truck, it's a dual bypass, it's a BMK26 is the number for this bypass kit. Comes with the bypass filter, and that bypass filter is 98.7% efficient absolute at 2 microns. That's an EABP 100. It also comes with the EAO26, and that's the full flow filter, and that one is 98.7% efficient at 20 microns. And both of those are a synthetic media filter. It comes also with 12 feet of the hose for relocating the filter. And right here is the adapter for where the original filter was at. So we'll take off the original filter, and this goes in to direct the fluid to the bypass filter head. Comes with a filter head for both filters. It comes also with 2 L-shaped brackets. These are the only brackets that Amsoil has ever sent with these kits. So that's why I'm manufacturing the brackets that are vehicle specific. The other thing that comes with it is the hose ends, and they also have some of the adapters that screw in, threaded adapters for relocating the filter head. It also has the instructions for installing it. Make sure you follow those instructions. Now, the parts that I manufacture or fabricate to install this system, there's actually 6 pieces for this one. The main mount right here bolts up to the outside of the frame, and then this bypass filter system bolts up to that. Okay, and it's using existing holes that are already there in the frame, so we're not drilling holes and stressing out the frame. Okay, that's the main mount, and then the rock guard. This is to prevent rocks from hitting the filter that come off that front tire. The rock mount bolts up to the back side of this, and also we have another brace bracket that goes to the bottom of the frame, and this will be the bottom of the rock guard. So that's the second, actually the third bracket. There is a line support bracket, and this here bolts onto the cross member near the transfer case, and this helps to support the lines and keep them from rubbing on anything. This is another one that goes to the frame and supports the lines. And then this is the last one. This one bolts up to the bell housing. And this will take the hoses right into where this filter originally was at, your full flow filter, and where that adapter goes. So these parts right over here are what I fabricate, and you can buy those directly from me. If you don't have an Amsoil wholesale account, I can set you up an account to buy the Amsoil products at 20% off for retail. So just contact me, either email me or give me a call. I'd be happy to set up an account for you to buy the Amsoil products at wholesale. The other thing that I offer as well is the gold plugs. Now these gold plugs are use a neodymium magnet, which is one of the strongest magnets known to man. What I've done in this truck is I've pulled the front and the rear differential fill plugs out. From the factory, Ford on the front diffs, and this is true right up to 2019, there's no magnet in that front differential at all. Now, the only filter you have in those gearboxes is the magnet. So the stronger that magnet is, the more metal it's going to pull out of that oil and away from the bearings. And here's an example of what happens when that fine metal keeps going through those bearings over and over again. This is from a differential that I overhauled. And you can see in here what happens, that fine metal will go through and it bruises the rolling elements and also the races. When the bruising accumulates sufficiently enough, then that bearing begins to flake out. And when it flakes out, that's when they really get noisy, and that's where you're headed for a rebuild. So this is the front differential plug. Again, no magnet on it whatsoever. This is the one that replaces it, that gold plug has, and we've got a pretty good sized bolt here, and probably about a pound, pound and a half, and I can get that up quite a ways with it. Okay, so that's the front diff. Now the rear diff plug that I pulled out of this truck, this is it right here. I can get it up part way. Now this is the one that gold plug has to replace that rear diff. I'm not even going to take it out of the package. And pick it just about clear out. I've got another one here. This is actually from a GM differential. and this is from a 2018. And this one is so pathetically weak, that gray magnet from the factory, that it can hardly hold itself on the bolt. And this one here is the replacement for it, the direct replacement. And again, the strength difference is phenomenal. You know, which one of these two magnets is going to pull more metal out of the oil to protect your bearings? So I offer those. I have those for the Ford. Also, I have the ones for the engine oil. And most of the time, the engine oil drain plug does not have a magnet on it. So that gold plug will pull any metal out of that oil that's there and give you some idea what's going on inside. So those are available as well, along with my brackets. So we're going to start assembling this and putting stuff on the truck, and we'll get started and be back with you. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is put in the oil sample valve for taking oil analysis. And on these instructions, Amsoil talks about putting it on the clean side of the filter after the oil's gone through the bypass and the full flow already. And my thoughts on that are, the bypass filter is 98% efficient at 2 microns, and the oil analysis can see particles up to about 8 to 10 microns. I still want to see those 8 to 10 micron wear particles. So I want it coming from the oil coming from the engine oil pump before it's been filtered. So what I'm going to do is put it on that arrow coming from the engine oil. You can see the 2 arrows. Okay. Now, when they put these in, they put a little bit of Loctite on, which I don't really like, but it's going to get a little loud. But the only way to get them out is to have a good, healthy 1/2 inch impact. All right. So we got that out, and I offered as part of my kit an oil sample valve with a cap, a removable cap. And what that does, that keeps the dirt, the water, all the stuff out so that you don't end up with a tainted sample. And I've also got the adapter that goes right directly in where that plug went. And this is an O-ring type fitting, so the best thing when you go to put this together is put a little bit of grease or a little bit of oil on there when you go to tighten that up. Okay? And again, there's some of that Loctite in there. I don't like it, but that's just kind of the way it is. Also, the threads on this brass valve are a tapered pipe thread. So put just a little bit of pipe dope on those. That might have a little bit of Teflon in it, and that'll help seal that up. And don't over tighten it. That little brass fitting can't take a lot. And I basically, when I'm all done, I want it pointing straight down so I can go ahead and take my samples there easily. So that takes care of that. We're going to go ahead and start assembling this and show you how it all goes. Okay, there's on the side of the frame right here, there's a triangular pattern, bolt pattern, and it's right here by the transfer case. And we're going to stick, there's actually some steel lines, a few lines that come along here, so we're going to stick those bolts in right beside those few lines, because I don't want the nuts and what's left of the bolt rubbing on them. Okay, and if we put the head on the inside, it won't rub on the on those steel lines. Okay, and then there's a top bolt. What we're going to do is bring this in just like this, and we'll put on a couple of nuts. Next thing we're going to do is put on the bypass filter head. The top 2 bolts are the ones we're going to use that came with the bypass filter system. The bottom 2 bolts will be bolts that I add in with my kit because they're longer. And that's what's going to attach the rock guard to everything. Okay, So that gets it up there. Now another thing that you got to keep track of, on the clean side of this filter, that'd be this one right here. This is a cleaned oil going back to the engine. Keep everything as clean as possible all the way from here back to the engine. That includes the hose, the fittings, everything. This is the dirty oil coming from the engine oil pump. This is the clean side right up the center. Okay, and that goes out and back. So make sure that you keep everything clean, because if you get dirt in here, the first stop is going to be your bearings on your engine, and that's going to be a bad deal. So keep everything as clean as possible. Just a word to the wise. So we're going to go ahead and get the adapter on for the filter, where the original filter was at, and I'll be back with you. Okay, right here's the adapter for where the original filter went. It's 2 pieces. Now this nut, this gold nut, is 2.5 inch. So if you're going to get a socket to put it on, now they tell you to put this on finger tight and then go 1.5 turns beyond that. Now if you get this too tight, you can rupture this square cut gasket. So just be aware of that. Too loose, it's going to leak. Too tight, you're going to rupture it. Okay, so you got to use good judgment on that. Okay, before I start, I'm going to mark that so I know how far I've turned it. Okay, so I want this. This is where I'm starting right here. That's going to be my flat. So when I'm finished, I want to go a full turn, and this mark should be about right over here or somewhere in between, depending on how tight I want to get it. Okay, so that gives me some idea, because right now we're finger tight. And you might have to put a fitting in the side to keep that black outer section from turning, to hold it where you want it, because we want it on a slight angle coming right by the bell housing. Right here is where we want it. I think I might do that right now. Give me something to hang on to, because it's going to want to turn a little bit with that other piece. Okay, I'm going to put this adapter, this hose end on to that adapter going in that filter head, and that'll give me something to hang on to as I tighten it. Kind of make a handle so that don't turn, because like I said, I want that coming to shoot right by about where this bell housing is, because I got a hanger. It's going to come down right here, and that's going to attach to that hose. So that's about where I want it, kind of right in that general area right there. Okay, I might have to push that back a little bit. Right there's, oh, that's about 1 turn, and this thing moved on me. Okay, I don't know that you're going to get the 1.5 turns, because if you try to get that 1.5 turns, I think you're going to rupture that gasket. So that's about where we started at, pretty close. So 1 turn, 1.25 turns. I'm going to back it off a little bit, get this where I want it, and I'm going to retorque it again. That gives you some idea. Okay, they say 1.5 turns. You might need a cheater pipe to get that 1.5 turns, but like I said, I've seen it before and I've done it. I had it on Duramax where this ruptured. I ruptured that gasket. So you got to use good judgment on that. And the biggest thing is, if you can grab this and not be able to move it, it's probably as tight as any filter's ever going to be on anyway. It's not going to go anywhere. So just a word to the wise. Too loose, it's going to leak. Too tight, you're going to rupture that square cut gasket here. Okay, the rock guard goes on next. It goes right on those two bolts, the two longer ones that I sent along with the kit. And we'll use the lock nuts from the Amsoil BMK26 kit to go on the back side. I'm going to leave that loose right now. And the next bracket to go up, we'll use these last two holes in the bottom of the frame that are already there. We got some 3/8 bolts that'll come along with it, and those will go up through the bottom. What that's going to do is stiffen everything up good for that rock guard. And there's a couple of 1/2-inch bolts that'll come along with it. And those we'll put in this way here. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is tighten up these bolts up here for the rock guard. Get that the rest of the way where it needs to go. Okay, so that solidifies this whole rock guard here to protect those filters. And it's affixed solid to the frame and gives a lot of stability, a lot of protection for those filters. This is 3/16 plate steel, and it's a lot harder for any rock or any debris that you pick up off that front tire to go through this than it is to go through the filter. It's just an extra level of protection for the filters. Okay, so next thing is we're going to start putting up the line support brackets, and we're going to start running the lines. Okay, the next item we're putting up is this Z-shaped bracket, and both ends of the Z are exactly the same size hole, same bend, everything. Okay, and we're going to be using this hole right here in the cross member, right here by the drive shaft. And when you go to use this, we're going to set it right on top, so make sure you get all the dirt, any gravel or anything that may be sitting up there, get it out of the way. So we're down to the metal. Okay, and this is going to set up in there. It's going to sit about like, it's going to be close to sitting against the frame. And there's I've got a thick fender washer, 3/8 fender washer. It's going to go in the bottom because it's a slotted hole. It's a big slotted hole here. And that fender washer will take up that, take up a lot of that looseness there. Okay, so we put that up. On the top side we put the nut. Like I said, we're going to be right up almost against that frame, or very close to it. And we'll get the impact and tighten that up. And again, if you want to torque it, it's going to be about 30 to 35 foot-pounds. Okay. So that's good and solid right there. That's our first line support bracket. Lines will come up right here by where my fingers are at, and the clamps will hold it, and then we'll cut it back towards the engine. So the two clamps will be right on top. Okay, the second line support bracket right here is a fuel pump. There's a hole in the frame right here, a little over a 3/8 hole. And that's what we're going to use. So what we're going to do is bring this bracket in. Kind of wiggle it between the harness and the hoses there, and right about there is where it's going to be. And I'll put that bolt on. It's a 3/8 bolt. Okay, so about right there is where we're going to be. We basically want that sitting flat, you know, nice and true, so it isn't angled one way or the other. I'll get my impact here, we'll tighten it up. Okay, that gives us a nice solid bracket right there to hold those hoses so they don't hit that drive shaft. It's just under the cab. Okay, so I'm going to get the last bracket. It goes on the flywheel housing, and we'll get started with that. Okay, there's a bolt right here in the bell housing that I've taken out. This one right here, okay? You can see right here is my filter head, where my filter was at, my filter adapter, where my hoses are going to come off. And what I made is a twisted bracket right here, so it turns 90 degrees. And we're going to put that in right there, and we're going to put that in, and it's going to be right up close to where that transmission is. When you go to tighten this up, 45 foot-pounds is what it takes for torque. And again, I'm going to want it down just about to where it's touching that fin on that bell housing of the transmission, if we can see that. You might have to hold it, it's going to want to turn a little bit. And I'm going to get out the torque wrench and torque that to 45 when I get it good and snug here. Okay, now these clamps are going to go on and they're going to be staggered. So one clamp is going to be on the high side for this one right here for the dirty oil going to the filter. And then the other clamp is going to be right here. And that one's going to come with the hose going up to feed back to the engine. So that's the way we're going to do it. And if you have to move this out or you know, loosen it up, move it out, you can do that. You know, so your hose don't hit right here on that bell housing. It's adjustable. You know, just take the whole bracket and move it out just a little bit if you need to, and get what you need for clearance. But that's kind of how this is going to work out right here. So we're going to go ahead and torque that bolt, and we'll be back with you. We're going to start running the hoses. Okay, these adapters for the hoses that are going to go into this filter head, I usually just take some grease and put on them, just enough to lube them so you don't cut that O-ring when you put it together. And you can use oil if you want, but the oil likes to run off in your face while you're working on it, and the grease don't do that, so that's why I use grease. And when you go to tighten those up, it's a 1-inch wrench, and get them good and snug. I think they call for around 70 foot-pounds of torque. Biggest thing is get them good and snug. The O-ring does the sealing, so all you need to do is lube up that O-ring. It does all the sealing. You don't need to put anything else on the threads. The threads are just there to tighten it up. And that one there looks like I already put a little grease on it. Okay, so that bottom one is a clean one. That's a clean side where the clean oil is going back to that engine. And again, keep everything clean. Don't get any dirt in that elbow. Don't get any dirt in that hose on that clean side, or you're going to wish you hadn't. And the other thing is, we want that hose, we want that to come right here, and that hose is going to shoot right through here. So we want to keep it aimed just about right where we're at. If we have to, we can put another wrench on there. I think a 15/16 or 7/8 will do it. Basically keep it about right in that spot. And again, it's about the same torque as the other one. All those torque specs are on that sheet from Amsoil, that instruction sheet. Okay, we're going to put the hose ends on. These hose ends, the outer shell here screws off the main fitting, and that gets inserted onto the hose. And when you get this new hose, sometimes the ends are tapered a little bit. I use a tool from Snap-on. It's a Blue Point YA1000A. It makes a nice 90-degree cut on these hoses. You want to make sure you have a nice clean cut to start with. But this cuts it really nice and true, and nice square cut on it. So you need to start with a nice square cut, and then this piece is reverse threads. So you put it on the hose, you just start turning it on. It'll grab a hold of that hose, and you can do it with your fingers or your hand, and just turn it until till it hits. If you look inside, it's just hit, and then I back it off just a little bit. Just enough so that it ain't binding up on those threads at all. Okay. Next thing I do is I take some of the engine oil like I'm putting in the engine. Just squirt a little bit of it on the inside of that hose to lubricate the taper as it goes in, and I'll put a little bit on the taper as well, just to make things slide together a little easier. Okay, and when I do this, I usually put the hose ends on both ends of the hose, and then I'll show you the procedure for marking out the hose so we know how long to go. But I'll put both hose ends on, and then from the filter I'll string it up and make my final cuts to put the other ends on. But you got a vise handy, it works real well. Just clamp the shell that's on the hose there in the vise. Take the crescent wrench. And there it is. People have asked me about this hose before. I've been doing these for about 15 years. I have yet to have one of these leak. If you look at this hose, it's got, let me grab the other end here, it's got nylon braids in it. You can kind of see it on the end of the hose. Now, being an engine application, we don't need the high pressure like you would see in a hydraulic system. In hydraulics, what they'll use is steel braids, incorporated into that outer lining of the hose. The inside is a synthetic rubber, the same as what you would find on a hydraulic hose. So as far as the temperature ability of this is basically the same as what you find on a hydraulic hose. The only difference is we got nylon for reinforcement. So this will handle, I don't know if it says on the hose, but these will usually handle in the range of 450 psi is what it says on the outside of the hose right here. 450 psi. Your engine should never put out anywhere close to that kind of pressure. So as far as pressure goes, this will handle it easily. So use it in confidence. I've yet to have a leak in 15 years on them, and they work very well. So if you put them together right, everything will work beautiful. Okay, I put duct tape over the end of the hoses because we're going to be going up over the frame, and that way if there's any dirt or anything, it doesn't get inside the hoses. Again, cleanliness, you got to keep it clean. Okay, so the shift cable's right here for the transmission, and we're going to go, the dirty oil is going to go over top, and the clean oil is going to go underneath of it. And we're going to route these out to the filter head, and it's going to go right above the frame, right out here. Okay, and then we're going to hook it up. Go ahead and take off our duct tape now that we got it where we want it. Okay, so this one here is the dirty one. The dirty one goes to the outside. Okay, that's the dirty oil coming from the oil pump. And the other one is the clean oil that's gone through the filters. And going back, you return to the engine. And you go to tighten these up, a 1-inch crow's foot wrench works really nice because you can't really get a wrench in here to get a nice swing. But a crow's foot wrench with a ratchet, and that's what we'll end up tightening these up with. Okay, so now I've got these here lines on. Make sure I got them routed exactly the way I want them. Okay. So back on the inside, we're going to run our clamps. What I'm going to do is route the hoses, put the clamps in, and get everything where I want it. And then I'm going to do my cutting and putting the ends on up there by the filter adapter where the original filter was at. Okay, this cab, the hose that's closest to the cab here, I want to put down first. So put the hose clamp through the inside hose clamp first, and that'll stack on top of that outside one. And that'll go through this line support bracket, like so. And put the nut on. Try not to drop it. Okay, and I'm not going to tighten it down completely, but I'm going to get it close. And that inside one's going to be close to the cab, but there should be enough room, because if this hose touches the cab, there's going to be some harmonics from that oil pump that's going to transfer through to the cab. So none of this hose needs to be touching the cab anywhere. And if we have to, we can rotate this this line support bracket a little bit to get it further away if need be. But when it's all tight, it should be down far enough where it's not touching the cab. And then we're going to go ahead and put the clamps on this next line support bracket right here. Again, that inside one's going to be on the bottom. I should say the outside one's going to be on the bottom. The inside one's going to be on top. Brings it down a little further from the cab. Put the bolt in. And what this does is get your hose routed pretty close to where you need to be, so that when you cut it, you get the right length on everything. Okay, put the nut on. This bracket here, if you need to tweak it, you can. You can grab it, pull it down a little bit if need be. But again, you don't want any part of that hose touching the cab. Okay, the next one is going to be the front one. Here's the bolt for that. Okay, so put that in, put the nut on, just enough to hold it in place. Camel. Okay, now I haven't cut the other end of the hose yet. We're just going to string these up. Okay, and when you go to cut them, the marker is going to be basically right here, and I'll remove one of these so we can see it. Actually, I got an extra one over here so I can show it to you. The hose is basically going to come up to about right here where my finger is. Okay, so we're going to lay the hose up right against that fitting, and then we're going to mark it. So we're going to go ahead and cut that outside hose right there where my mark is at, nice and square. Okay, that one's done. Now we're going to cut that inside one. Same procedure. Mark the hose good. Bring it down to your slice. And then it's up to you if you want to take the hose back out and assemble it on the vise, or if you want to do it right here. That's up to you. So the next thing is putting the hose ends on and getting them hooked up. Then we'll tighten up the clamps, and then from there it'll be a matter of putting the filters on. So we're going to put the hose ends on. We'll be back with you. Okay, we've got this back line support bracket tightened up, and again, that outside one is the first one on top of it. We need to have this as low as we can right here going by that cab, and I've got just enough room there I can slip my little finger through there. But again, we don't want any of those hoses touching the cab or you're going to hear it. Okay, and also what I did on this next line support bracket is I put the clamps on the bottom side, and what that does, that helps pull it down and away from the cab right there, so it gives a little clearance right there between the cab. So that helps to get that line down where it needs to be. So we're going to go ahead and tighten up the front line support bracket, get that done,
and tighten everything up. We'll be back with you.
Okay, when you go to tighten these up on the filter head, a 1-inch crow's foot wrench makes this a whole lot easier. As you can get on there without having to have the room that you would with a wrench. Okay, so that's it. Now we're ready to put the filters on. Got the lines all supported here, and rock guards on. Okay, you're going to want to have probably 3 quarts of oil, extra oil, for this bypass system, because it's going to add about that much, somewhere between 2 and 3 quarts. I would have 3. We're using the Amsoil 5W30 diesel oil in this engine. I've used that in semis, I've used it in farm tractors, I've used it in these diesel trucks for the last 12 to 15 years and had excellent results out of it. So this is what we're going to be using. I do pre-fill the filters before I put them on. And again, make sure the center part is the clean part. This is brand new, fresh, clean oil. So we're going to go ahead and fill them both up, and then we're going to go ahead and put them on. And we got it all installed. We've had the engine running. And show you what it all looks like here installed. Get a little light on the subject. There we go. We got our sample valve up there with the cap, and the adapter there to go in the filter head. Got the clearance there for the brake cable, emergency brake cable. And then I'm going to go underneath here to get a look at from the rock guard side. This is from the wheel end. And you can see that rock guard gives you good protection, covers up those filters real well. That way if you run over anything on the highway, you never know on the highway anymore what's laying out there and it gets thrown up here. You've got some protection. It's a whole lot harder to go through that 3/16 plate steel than is the side of that filter. So it just gives you that extra level of protection. Okay, and the hoses up here are nice and high, and they go right over top the frame. Okay, let's go to the other side of the frame here and look things over. And see if I get light in the right place here so we can see everything that we need to. There we go. Okay. So this other line support bracket here, it bolts. You can see right there, it bolts to the bottom of the cross member there. It goes at the back of the tranny. Then it comes up, and we got 2 clamps up there that keep them hoses away from the cab and secure them. And then we have another line support bracket, and see if I can get a good shot of that. And it's right here by the fuel pump. You can kind of see where I put that one. And again, you can see the clamps out there. Okay, and as we go up further, we get up here by the transmission shifter, and we've got enough clearance right here between the hose and that shifter bracket. Where's that at? Right there. We got probably about a good 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch right there. Okay. And then we go up to our twisted bracket there that we've got, and I swung it out a little bit from the bell housing, and basically we got one line going. Let's see if I can get this shot better here, because right up here is your shift cable. One goes in between. It basically shoots right in between the dirty oil going out and the clean oil coming back. So that sits in there real nice. And up here we've got the adapter where the filter originally was. That's all tight and everything's good there. So we pretty well got this system all finished up. Thank you for watching my video. Be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/c/Donsoil. I'd like to introduce you to Amsoil synthetic lubricants. We have the most complete line of synthetic lubricants on the market that offer you greatly reduced wear, extended drain intervals, longer equipment life. You can check that out at my website, donsoil.com. I also have a website for looking up fluid capacity. It's fluidcapacity.com. You can go there and print off the capacity of your engine oil, cooling system, transmission, transfer case, differentials. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Don Synthetic Lubes. Thank you and have a great day.